Hey, welcome to another SOTA, Scoot on the Air Daily Hit. This is when we talk about, one of the big issues of the day and also some other stuff. And really, for those of you who despise the alt-right and the extreme progressive left, man, this is a YouTube channel for you, Scoot on the Air. And I hope you'll subscribe. We've got a lot going on. Before we get into today's topic, I want to remind you that we have a new video that has been posted. It's an interview show, and I'm going to do these about once a week on this channel. We'll have the daily hit like this, but also we're going to do an interview show. And the first one that I did was with Congressman Steve Scalise, Republican congressman that I do not agree with on many things, but we did have a civil conversation over a great meal at a French Quarter restaurant. And the one that just posted is my interview with a Bourbon Street dancer. This is also at another restaurant in the French Quarter of New Orleans. And she talks about raising the minimum age of dancers from 18 to 21. She talks about why she does what she does. And she also talks about the weirdest thing a man ever asked her to do. And apparently it cost him a lot of money. It's kind of strange. Anyway, it's a great candid interview, and it's part of what we do here on Scoot on the Air. So I do hope you'll subscribe and share with others, because if you subscribe, you get an update on whatever it is that we're doing. But check out those videos after you check this out. So we have a lot to talk about today. The body of President George H. Walker Bush is lying at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., and President Trump and the First Lady Melania paid a visit last night. And apparently on CNN, there was some criticism of President Trump for even going. President Trump was not invited to the McCain funeral. The Bush family is putting aside their differences with President Trump, and they are inviting him to the funeral of George H.W. Bush. However, he's not going to speak. He won't say a word. I think the question that we have to ask ourselves is, do you think Trump really wants to go? Or do you think he's kind of being forced to go? I can't answer that question. But he doesn't seem to like anybody to get attention except him, even if it's a guy who just passed away. And I know there's a lot of comparisons between the way George Bush, the first George Bush, was president and the way Donald Trump is president, not getting into that here. But honestly, if we want to get to the point where we put politics aside, and if the Bush family, and they're the ones that started, if the Bush family is putting politics aside and inviting President Trump to the funeral, then CNN and everybody else should put politics aside too for this moment and let President Trump view this, let President Trump go through this process, and then let it go. You want to attack later, do that. But if the Bush family is taking politics out of it, I think it's wrong for us to put politics back in it. So there seems to be a conversation about whether or not there should be background checks for the purchase of guns on social media. I know, man, I'm sure people are freaking out over this, and the NRA is thinking, wow, man, we can't have that. That's gun control. I'm not for gun control, but I'm for sensible gun control measures. And the idea of a universal background check, the idea of background checks applying to every time a gun is sold, makes sense to me. And I don't understand how you argue that you favor background checks when a gun is sold on a retail level for all the right reasons, but somehow you dismiss all the right reasons when it comes to selling a gun to your neighbor or on social media. That is totally hypocritical to me. You're either for background checks or you're not for background checks. Background checks, I know, are not going to keep guns out of the hands of all the wrong people. But background checks seem to be a sensible way to keep guns out of the hands of some people. At least in theory, it should work. But again, it's not going to keep guns out of the hands of the wrong people that want to get a hold of guns. But I don't understand this argument. I don't understand this mentality that no background checks. No, that's not fair. Why? You support background checks at the retail level. What the hell's the difference? This is where the hysteria steps in, led by the NRA. The hysteria comes into this when people are riled up to think that anything like this is an infringement on your Second Amendment rights. Hey, man, there are a lot of infringement on your Second Amendment rights if you take the Second Amendment to be pure and literal. I mean, there are places you can't go with guns. That's okay. That doesn't take away your right to the Second Amendment. And too many gun owners. Look, let me set the record straight. The majority of gun owners, as far as I know, are very responsible gun owners. And many gun owners, and I'm sure some NRA members, understand the importance of background checks, even at the social media level, or when you're selling a gun to a neighbor or a family member. They understand this and they're for it. I'm talking about those that freak out because they've been given this ridiculous false narrative that anything that happens is going to lead to your guns being taken away. You know, I've been in talk radio a long time, and I've heard this fear over the years, over many years. The government's coming to get your guns. Guess what? You still have your guns, don't you? The government did not come and get your guns. So why the hysteria? I don't know. It's part of this political divide. It's part of people standing up for a cause and standing strong and not wanting to compromise and not even using common sense. Nobody's coming to get your guns. Even if Hillary became president, Hillary Clinton was not going to take your guns away. But see, that idea, as false and ridiculous and stupid as it is, that idea rallies the right. Instilling fear in you that you're going to lose your right to keep and bear arms, that drives people to the polls. Do you know anything about the Supreme Court? If you know anything about the Supreme Court or anything about the Constitution, you know that the government is not going to take your guns away. And I love the people that think that, you know, they're going to, if there's an attempt at a government takeover, you know, their guns are going to protect them. I don't care how many guns you have. If the government of the United States with its military wanted to get you, they would get you. And going out on your front lawn with your damn shotgun is not going to stop the government. But I guess it makes people feel like, well, you know, I can control. I've got guns. I've got canned food. I can survive. Man, if the government really wanted to get you, you're dead. The government's not coming after you, and they're not going to kill you, and they're not going to get your guns. So I just wish this ridiculous conversation would go away, but it won't, because it serves the hysteria on the far right. So why shouldn't there be background checks at every level of selling a gun? You know, recently in this country, there was a controversy because a company was going to give, and I guess they're still going to do it, they were going to give all of their employees a gun for a Christmas bonus. The gun was going to be the Christmas bonus. Well, that's okay, but you shouldn't give it. You know, what if there's somebody on the staff? What if there's an employee that, you know, maybe they're mentally okay to work for you, but maybe they shouldn't have a gun. And what about giving guns to employees? What if they don't want the gun and they give it to a family member, or they give it to a friend, or they sell it? Shouldn't there be a background check there as well? You know, you've got to register a car when you buy a car. There's nothing wrong with registering a gun. There's nothing wrong with certain legal things going along with buying a gun, and that does not take away your right to keep and bear arms. So, man, get over the hysteria. The government is not coming to get your guns. I've heard the same argument over the years. In fact, you know, today, I guess it's the Democrats are coming to get your guns, which is not true. They can't do it. And by the way, you know, the Democrats make a big mistake because they don't stand up to the Republicans and say, we support the Second Amendment. We're not going to take away your guns. But there's nothing wrong with a few changes that might be made in our gun laws. It's not going to stop the mass shootings. It's not going to stop the murders on the street. But it just makes sense in a civilized society to not be afraid to have certain rules. And yet some people are afraid of the rules, thinking it's going to lead to a gun takeover. Well, that is just, that's ridiculous. So, going back to this whole idea of giving guns to anybody or selling guns to anybody, it just doesn't make sense for that to happen. A long time ago, this country, the right was concerned about the United Nations taking over. Communists were coming, and the United Nations was going to take over America. Got to have your guns. I mean, it goes back that far. This hysteria about the government's coming to get your guns, it ain't new. It's been going on for a long time, and I hear it with the same intensity now that I heard it back then. So don't act like this is some like big new threat for the government to come get your guns, because it's not going to happen. If you have a comment, you can certainly reply to this. Also, if you want to reach me on Facebook, we don't have signs yet, but I'm getting signs for this daily hit. The Facebook page is Scoot on the Air. My Instagram is Scoot on the Air, and my email is scootontheair@gmail.com. So you can respond. You can be part of this. I do this live, but you could also be part of it because not everybody's viewing this live. But again, every day, I want to give you an opportunity to have a common sense approach to many of the topics and issues. And sometimes we'll do like fun, ridiculous, crazy stuff, and sometimes we'll do stuff that has substance to it, like this fear of background checks on social media. But I do want you to join us for the SOTA, Scoot on the Air, daily hit, and please subscribe, and you'll get an update whenever we do something. And again, check out the new interview with Sable. That's her name. She's a Bourbon Street dancer, and she talks about a lot of things concerning her business. It was an interesting conversation over a meal at a French Quarter restaurant. I'm Scoot. Have a great day.